welcome to another episode of Happy Mum, Happy Baby, the podcast. So today's guest, I got a description that said this. Describes herself as a Daily Mail's worst nightmare, a gay, Muslim, British Pakistani, Tory-hating social worker from a working class background, not fitting in, has been the default position for most of her life. I read that and I thought, I need to talk to her. So here she is. It's Isma Almas.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I mean, that's quite an intro.
It is.
Quite a description.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's a pretty good one.
Yeah. So you are a mum of 3.
Yes.
2 girls and a boy.
Yeah.
Let's start with what your childhood was like.
Okay. It is quite of a checkered childhood.
Right.
Okay. So what happened was I was born here, but I went to Pakistan with my mum and my brother and my sister. And then I stayed there till I was about 5 or 6. And then we came back to England because my dad was here. So we came to kind of live with him. And unfortunately, he kind of didn't really want us to be here.
Oh, really?
So the address that we turned up in England, my mum hadn't told him we were going to come back because he was a bit of a git, shall we say?
Okay,
yes. Okay. So we had an address for him where we thought he lived. So we turned up in the middle of the night at this address, having landed at Heathrow, and my poor mum had kind of got us to this house to be told that he didn't live there. And that this couple had no idea who he was.
No.
Yeah. So we then actually ended up, I guess, homeless.
Yeah.
And then, thankfully, my mum had the address of a family in Bradford. So we kind of turned up on their doorstep and they took us in. And then we lived there with them until the council rehoused us. So I grew up on a council estate. Yeah. My dad would kind of come and go.
So you did find him?
Yeah. The family that we were staying with, their dad went to was his friend basically, and he kind of went and kind of tracked him down and stuff. So my dad would kind of come and go throughout my childhood. But most it was just my mum and me, my brother and my sister. And we grew up on a very, very rough council estate in Bradford at the time when, it was, at the time when, there was the miners' strike on, the National Front at the time had quite a big influence. Yeah, so there was a lot of racism, a lot of poverty, and not just us, but all the families around us. So, yeah, so that was kind of my childhood, really. And on the council estate, we were, one of maybe 2 or 3 Asian families. So we were quite isolated, really. Right. But that was life.
And how did you feel looking forward to, you being a grown up? And did you feel like you wanted a family? Did you want to be a mum?
Oh God, absolutely. I felt broody, I would say, from about the age of 2. I just always wanted kids. I did. I was desperate to be a mum. And I think what happened was, because my mum, and I don't know how she did this, but at times she would be working, 2 or 3 jobs. My mum was a teacher in Pakistan, but when she came here, her qualifications weren't recognised here, so she couldn't teach. So she kind of went to work in factories, but then in the evenings she would kind of be doing, it was called piecework, where, she'd sew, basically, and she'd get paid maybe a penny for each piece of a garment that she made. So she would be doing that. She would leave at 5 in the mornings to go to work in a factory. And what she would do is because I used to have really long hair, and she used to wake me at about 4:30 in the morning, comb my hair, plait it, and then I would go back to sleep. And then my brother or my sister would wake me, and then we would go get ready for school, and then each of us make our own way to school. And I remember going to school, age 6 or 7 by myself, across numerous main roads. But again, that was just life back then. Yeah. That is just what we did. That was normality. I think for me, what I wanted to do was when I became a parent, to try and be there in a way that my mum couldn't have been for us, because she was surviving, basically. I don't think at any point she got to kind of think, or, kind of, what do I want to do with my life? What are my aspirations? There was none of that for her. For her, it was basic survival and putting, food on the table and keeping a roof over our heads and meeting our very, very basic needs. And that was a struggle. Yeah.
Do you feel like she sort of pushed her kind of dreams onto you and what your life would look like? Or did you have did you have the freedom to kind of go, this is what I want, going forward in terms of family and a husband and, did you have an arranged marriage or?
No, I ended up actually, what happened was I went to uni and then I kind of went back home and I've always been slightly impulsive, shall we say. So I ended up marrying a white guy that I'd actually only known for 6 weeks.
Wow,
when I was 21. So I finished my degree and I was like, oh, and then met him and...
Did he literally just sweep you up off your feet?
I think we were each other's kind of first boyfriend and girlfriend. Okay. So we were like, this is nice. And we were so young. We were 21. We met in the November and we got married in the December.
Wow.
So...
Okay.
We didn't really, I think things through. We didn't think about the reality of life, the reality of marriage, the reality of, what you have to do to make a relationship work, but also as well, I don't think we had actually developed as adults yet at that point either. So, so we got married and, had 2 daughters together.
Did you have them quite soon after? Or?
Yeah, we got married when I was 21 and we had my first daughter when I was 22.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Looking back at that time, because everything obviously happened in such a short space, and, looking back, how does it make you feel? Like, what were you feeling at that point? And what was it like having a newborn when you were 22?
Yeah, I think at that time I was like, oh, yeah, I'm an adult. I can do this. Whereas now I kind of look at my daughters and my daughter is 21. My middle child is 21. And I think, no way. If she said, Mum, I've met somebody and we're getting married next month, I'd be like, you what? And my 25-year-old now as well, I kind of think, gosh, at that age, I had a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And I have no idea how I did that. And I think at that age, you don't actually think through the implications of what having a child. Well, I didn't. There might be other 21-year-olds who are far more mature than I was. But I know for me, I didn't think through the implications of what having a child meant. We weren't financially stable. We didn't, I barely knew myself. But, we did it. We made it work.
What was it like finding out you were pregnant? Did you know that's, you were gunning for that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right,
yeah. I was like, I think when we got married, we were both like, oh, yeah, what we should do is we should travel. We should see the world. I was like, yeah, we should totally do that. And then we got married. And then I was like, oh, do you know? That doesn't actually appeal to me. What really appeals to me is just having kids. And that is what I wanted. And I think I really wanted to kind of create like a family feel that I don't think that I had when I was a kid, because my mum was out working. She was, we were struggling, so we didn't really have kind of family time really. It was just about keeping one step ahead of the next, really, for most of my childhood.
What's it like looking back at your births?
Oh, my God. Well, I was so naive. When I had my eldest daughter, right?
Did your mum tell you anything about it?
No.
Okay.
No. We never discussed sex. We never discussed childbirth. We never discussed pregnancy, anything like that, really. But even when I was in labour with my eldest daughter, I was 22 and I was such a prude, right? What would happen was I was in agony. I was in such pain. I'd been induced, and they would come in, the midwife would come in, examine me. She would go out, say, I'm going to come back in 15 minutes and we'll see how you're doing. And in that 15 minutes, I would get out of bed. As painful as it was, I would put my knickers back on.
Oh.
And by the time I'd got my knickers back on, she would come back in and say, right, you need to take your knickers off. I need to examine you again. And I was like, okay. And this went on for hours. I was such a prude. I was like, must put my knickers back on. I must put my knickers
Feels
back
like
on.
good manners.
Yes. British.
Well, it was a very exposing time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but it was just amazing to kind of meet my daughter. And I think when I met her, I felt like that was what I was meant to do.
Really?
Just be a mum. And that just, it just felt pretty amazing. Yeah, just to kind of hold her and meet her. And
Did you feel like an instant bond?
Yeah, absolutely. I did. Really did. And I was, I just remember after I'd had her, I was on the labour ward and I fell asleep. And one of the midwives had said, right, just, breastfeed her and, it's fine. Keep her in bed with you. So I started to breastfeed her and I fell asleep. And then I woke up about an hour later. And I don't know if it was the drugs or what, but I forgot I'd had a child. And I looked down and there was this baby on my chest with my boob in her mouth. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And I was like, whose kid is this? Where is the mother? What am I doing? And I was just like, Isma, this is so inappropriate. And then something clicked and I remembered. I was like, oh, it's okay. You had a baby. This is your baby. It's all right. It's okay. Nobody panic.
It's so funny the things that go through your head.
Yeah, just a complete disconnect between my body and what had happened and my actual brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the sleep, though, not having that
my
sleep
God,
during the
yeah.
labour and stuff, I think it does. It does funny things to your brain.
It really does. But we were so lucky with my daughter because she actually... I remember the first few weeks just being like a bit like, oh my God, just feeling a bit sluggish and a bit kind of tired. And we were living with my mum. So we didn't have to kind of take care of any of the, the housework or the cooking or the functioning of any of that. And, because my mum did all of that. So all we had to do really was take care of her. But I remember the first time we had to go out of the house, I think she was about 2 or 3 weeks old. And we had an appointment to get to. I think it was like a doctor's checkup or something. And it took us about 2 hours to get her ready and out of the house. Because every time we got her ready to leave, she'd be sick. And then, oh, we need to change her again. And then she'd like poo herself. And it would be like, oh, we need to, sort her out. And it took us ages. And I remember like not having a clue, kind of every time she was sick or pooed, I'd bath her. And my mum was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm bathing her. She's, had a shit. And my mum was like, you don't need to bath her every time she shits.
She's going to do it 10 times a day.
You can just wipe her down. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. It took a while for kind of everything to kind of sink into place. But she slept through the night from being 6 weeks old.
Oh, amazing.
So
what a dream.
Yeah, that was incredible. Yeah. Yeah, so she's a very good baby.
What was your age gap between your daughters?
5 years.
Oh, quite a big one.
Yeah. So yeah.
Did you feel a difference going into it second time round?
Do you know, second time round, I was like maybe 26, 27. And I felt like my body just was not prepared for pregnancy at all. I felt like my body was just in agony the whole way.
That's what I felt like with my third.
Really?
Yeah.
I really noticed a difference. Like when I was, pregnant with my eldest, I felt I was, 21 when I was pregnant. And my body just kind of seemed to know what to do. I had like sickness and, I was puking up a lot. But other than that, I didn't, feel anything significant. But with my second one, oh my God, there was 5 years different. And I felt like my body had just aged so much and everything groaned, creaked.
My body hated me.
Oh my God, yeah, just getting in and out of bed, going to the loo. I remember kind of being about 7 months pregnant, going to stay with my brother in London and getting stuck in his bath. And thinking, what do I do? I cannot ask my brother to come in and help me out of the bath. And I don't know how I did it, but I got myself out of that bath. But I just felt so immobile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. Fun times.
Yes.
What was it like suddenly having the jump to 2?
I think that the biggest thing that impacted was I'd had a cesarean with my second one. So the recovery from that took a long time, I think. But I didn't actually... It kind of felt like you're going back to nappies, but you've only just kind of, we had a bit of a break between nappies, and it didn't feel too significant. I think the thing that shocked me was that my second daughter just didn't sleep. And she didn't sleep till she was about 3 years old.
Oh.
And I think if we'd had her first, I don't think we'd have had any more.
Really?
I think that would... Whereas I think I'd had... with my eldest, I'd thought, oh, yeah, this is great. So, all our children are going to do this. And then...
Well, you feel like it's you. You're the best mum ever.
Yeah,
and you're doing something right. And actually, the second one comes along to kind of go, no, you're not. We just fooled you.
Yeah, exactly. I've got my own personality. And that was a shock to my system. So like for 3 years, kind of getting up 4 times a night, it was horrendous.
Four times?
Yeah, 3 or 4 times a night, and just that kind of nearly broke me. So yeah.
How old were the girls when you and your husband divorced?
Oh gosh, I think probably when the youngest was about 3 or 4. I think, yeah. So
how did you navigate that with them?
What was happening was when we'd split up, I was training to be a social worker. So what we did was we carried on living together until I'd finished being a social worker. And what we did was, so we lived in the same house, and what we did was we just split the week up. So on a Monday and a Tuesday, I'd have the girls, and then on a Wednesday and Thursday, he'd have the girls. Then at the weekends, we took it in turns. So even though we were living together, how we did it was that if I was around on a Wednesday and a Thursday, technically they were his days, but I didn't have to have any responsibility for their meal times, for their bath times, for their bedtimes, picking them up after school, all of that. He would do all the running around, and I could just engage as and when. And likewise, when I had them, he didn't have to take responsibility for anything. I would do all of that. But if he wanted to have a chat with them, cuddle, bedtimes, whatever, he could do that. So when I'd qualified as social worker, he moved out. And we just stuck to the same arrangements. Then I would have the girls on a Monday, Tuesday. He had them Wednesday, Thursday. And then what happened was I ended up coming out. And
that must be really tricky as well with your kids. Like they were still quite young.
They were still quite young, and they just kind of accepted it, I think. I think as long as you're okay, your kids are okay.
Yeah.
And as I said before, that I think whatever happens in their childhood, we just accept as normality, don't we? And just, for them, they were like, oh, that's fine, mum's gay now. So, and he was really supportive as well. But what happened was we split up. He moved out, and then after about 6 months of us living separately, I was in the house by myself on the days that I didn't have the kids. And I was really missing them. And I hated being in the house by myself. And I felt really isolated. And I hated going home to an empty house.
Must be so weird when you know that you want a family in your future. And then you get that family and all of a sudden they're not there.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Must feel weird going to bed and stuff.
God, and what I would do was, because I think at that point as well, I'd kind of, I think, devoted so much of myself to my kids and had, I think, longed to have kids for so long that when they'd come along, I'd just throw myself into being a mum and being there for them, that I'd completely neglected all sense of who I was and what I wanted. So by the time we actually split up and he moved out, I maybe had 1 or 2 friends. Oh. And that was it, And I was working as a social worker, so I would go to work, I would come home. And it was great on the days that I had the girls. On the days that I didn't, oh my God, I felt so lonely. I felt so isolated. And what I would do is I would finish work and then I would not go home. And what I would do is I would stay out. So I would just go see a film by myself, or I would go and, to the 24-hour Asda and just wander about, try on clothes, not buy anything, just kill time.
Yeah.
And then I would go home at about 10:30, 11, let myself in, and I wouldn't go into any of the other rooms. I would just go straight upstairs and go straight to bed because I couldn't bear to go in any of the rooms. Yeah. And that carried on for about 6 months, and I was thinking, I can't keep doing this. And then I thought, I need to sell the house. So, because when we'd separated, when we'd split up, I'd kind of bought my ex-husband out. And so I was thinking, right, I'm going to have to put the house on the market and sell it. So I talked to him about it. And I don't know how, but I don't know how this happened. But he was renting. He was not happy with where he was, it was just down the road. It was maybe a mile away. And he was thinking, maybe he should kind of think about moving because the house wasn't suitable for him and the girls when he had them. And I don't know how it worked out, but we basically decided that he should move back in as my lodger.
How long did this new arrangement last for?
Well, let me tell you. What happened was I ended up getting with my partner.
Right.
Who's a lady. So she actually moved in with us.
Really?
Yes. So the three of us lived together. He was our lodger.
Yeah.
And the three of us lived together for about 3 years. And then it kind of came to a natural kind of, maybe we should all, because he'd met somebody else as well.
Falls a lot of adults in one house.
yeah. So, but she didn't move in. But at the time, kind of, we all decided to go our separate ways. We'd kind of, I think, been living together maybe 3.5 years, something like that. And the girls were actually at that point as well, where, they were okay with it. They were ready for it.
Yeah.
So we decided to go our separate ways. And what we did was me and my partner found a house that we really liked. So we ended up buying that. And then I found a house round the corner from our new house, and kind of said to my ex-husband, I really think you should go see this house. Yeah. And he was like, okay. So then he ended up buying that. So it was literally in the next street along. So we all kind of moved kind of in around the same time, and we kept the same arrangement on a Monday and a Tuesday, girls with me, Wednesday.
That's pretty incredible.
It was. And what was great was because the girls were slightly older by that point, they could come and go between the two houses as and when they wanted. So even when they were with him on a Wednesday and a Thursday, if they wanted to, after school, pop down and just say, oh, Mum, I just need to chat about something, or, So I felt that we were both kind of available to the girls as and when. So they would just, even at weekends, if they're with me and they wanted to go up to him and see a film with him, they could do that, or go up to play Mario Kart or whatever, they could do that. Or, if they were with him on a weekend and, we were having family around, they would pop down for lunch and stuff. So it was just really flexible, really, you know.
There were obviously tough times within that.
Yeah.
I think you kind of we're glossing over it,
yes.
but there would be, and I know for my mum and dad, there were definite moments that were really hard to get through.
Yeah.
But the fact that you managed to get into that place where it was amicable,
I think it took a lot of work. It took a lot of putting, what you really wanted to say to the back of your mind, and trying to be diplomatic and
less impulsive.
Yes, and really, just really think about what I wanted for the long term, and out of our relationship, we've managed to salvage, some sort of friendship. So,
do you think your job as a sort of in social care has also led to how you sort of got you all through that? Because you've seen what can happen. Yeah,
I think it was probably more what happened to me, my own personal experience. I think that was more it, that I thought what happened. I didn't want my girls to have the same kind of feeling. My mum never said anything bad about my dad or anything like that. But, I think it was trying desperately to cling on to some sort of family feel for them and feel that they hadn't lost a family, that they still had a family, and that they could, still come and say, oh, oh, it's Dad's birthday, what should I get him? And me be able to kind of help them choose something, or, so, because he still lives around the corner from us. So my daughter will take, my eldest one's off travelling around Southeast Asia at the moment by herself, which is a whole... Yes. So, but anyway, so my middle one, the 21-year-old's here at the moment. So she's, every couple of weeks she'll take her little brother up to her dad's, and... my son calls him Uncle Chris, and they'll play video games together, and he's taken him to the cinema, so
How long were you and your partner together before you decided that you wanted to adopt, and why did you choose adoption?
Okay, so since I was a kid, I'd always kind of thought I'd love to adopt, and then obviously had the girls, and then I'd had the girls young. Mm-hmm. I had eldest when I was 22, then the other one when I was about 27. And as your kids get older, this is how I felt, that I still had that need to mother. Mm. They need you in a completely different way, but I still had that need to be a mother. I still wanted to be a mum, and I know I'll always be a mum to them, but they don't need you in the same way. And I still felt that, oh no, I've still got that caring bit of me that needs to care for a younger child. I still need to do that. So we thought about adoption, and we did think about having a child, a biological child. But realistically, when we thought about it, we'd have to go down the donor route, the sperm. And thinking about that, we kind of thought, okay, so our child is just going to have a biological link to one of us. The other one of us is not going to have any biological link. Does it actually matter to us if our child doesn't have a biological link to either of us? And we thought, no, it doesn't actually. It really doesn't. So we decided to adopt. And I think the thing that really scared me and worried me about adoption is that I worried that I wouldn't be able to love this child. It really scared me, and I hoped I would. You hope you have it in you, but you don't actually know if you can love a child that's not biologically related to you until it happens. And I kind of hoped that I would, and I kind of thought, Isma, and I kind of trusted myself that I thought, okay.
I guess especially when you have something to compare it to.
Yes, absolutely, yes. And what scared me as well was, like, sometimes my girls, especially when they were little, they would do something, and I instinctively knew why they were doing it, or they would say something, and I instinctively knew why they'd said that, or what the thinking was behind it. And I was really worried that when I adopted, that I wouldn't have that, that I just wouldn't. And and it's quite a technical process. The emotion, it's, you feel emotional about it, but it's quite a factual process. So
is it quite when you actually went, that's what the path that we're going through?
Yeah.
What are those steps?
Okay, so you apply. You have to find an agency first of all. So we found an agency, then you apply, and they are absolutely so intrusive. They look at your past relationships. They go interview your exes. They look at your finances, your savings, how you're gonna, fund this new child, what your contingency plans are, what your plans are for work. They take up employer references, look around the house, talk to your family members. They scrutinise your childhood, your support network, who is in your life, who is going to support you once this child comes along, what your coping strategies are. They look at your attitudes towards employment, towards education, how you're going to promote education, how you're going to keep this child safe, how you're going to promote this child's welfare, how you're going to, keep the best interests of this child. Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And the complete opposite of what happens when you have a biological child. Nobody.
It would be good if they did kind of check up on you, just so you can kind of start thinking, oh yeah, I've got to do that. Okay.
Yeah. And I tell you what, if that process had happened when I had, my biological girls, I wouldn't have got through. That's you're not ready. Come back in a few years.
Like X Factor. Next year.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really, really intrusive. They dig and they dig and they dig, and you think, that's they dig some more. So it's incredibly intrusive, and then you go at the end of it. Took us. We had a break in between, so we started it, and then we kind of life felt a bit busy at the time, so we thought we're just going to put it on hold for a bit. So we took about a year off, and then we went back to it. But I think from start to finish, I think it can take roughly about 6 to 8 months.
Right.
So then once you're approved, then you can start looking for a child.
What were you looking for in a child?
Do you know?
Because obviously you're faced with so many pictures then. Like how do you even start going, that one? Yeah.
You try and keep emotion out of it. But it's so hard. It's so hard.
It must be really difficult going through all that process and then going onto that website and going, look at all of these kids who need safety and love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we were originally thinking, we'll go for a girl. And because I was thinking that's what I've done. That's that's what we've done. We've parented girls. We know what to do. And then we kind of applied for a few children. We got put forward by our social worker as well for a few children. And the whole process is it's like, so you might apply for one child, but this child might have maybe 80 other people who've already inquired. So then the social workers will shortlist maybe 10 families, then they might narrow it down to 5, go visit those 5. So sometimes we made it down to like the last 4 or the last 3. But then, we ended up kind of, when we saw our son's picture, just like thinking, wow. But so we met with his social workers, and
so you met with the social workers first.
You don't actually meet the child until you've a few days before you bring them home. So you don't actually get. So it's all done.
What was that like?
That is so frightening, and it is very much. I saw it as like a bit of a blind date. Well, not even a blind date, I would say an arranged marriage, where you don't actually get to meet them until you are married, and that is it. So I don't know if that was helpful, because it certainly prepared me that, you don't expect fireworks straight away, Isma, and I was kind of saying, don't, so the lead up to actually meeting him, what happens is you kind of have all these days where you get to know them, know about him from the people that are caring for him. So you meet his foster carers, you can ask them loads of questions, you get to see videos, pictures, you prepare a little book that he can look through with pictures of, us in and the house, his bedroom. We did a little video. So he kind of, you get to kind of know and build a picture in your mind about this child, but nothing prepares you for that moment of meeting.
What was it like?
Oh my God, it was incredible. It was just incredible. We got to the foster carer's house and we were waiting outside, and we were both sitting it. We were both like, oh my God. And we saw his foster carer, the male foster carer, walking down the street with him in a buggy. And he was 2 years old. And my partner was like, he's there. And I was like, oh my God. And I was so scared to get out of the car. And I was thinking, oh my God, Isma, what if you don't feel anything? What if you don't feel anything? What if that connection is not there? And I was saying to myself, it doesn't matter. And then we got out of the car and I was absolutely petrified to look at him. I was so scared to look at him in case I didn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And when I looked into his buggy, my heart just melted. It was just incredible. And everything that I felt when I met my birth kids, I felt for him right there. And because he'd seen the videos, he'd seen the pictures of us, he looked up at us and he just said, Mama.
Oh, gosh.
And that's what my partner was going to be called.
Really?
Yeah, because he recognised her. And, you know, the foster carers had been saying, showing him pictures,
Yeah.
showing him the video. So, yeah, so that was just incredible. And we'd, you know, the social workers had said as well, you know, we went in and one of the social workers was there as well to try and facilitate the meeting. Our first meeting, they'd said, don't stay too long. We're just going to, the first meeting, you're just going to stay for an hour.
Yeah.
You're not going to overwhelm him. Don't go OTT with the touching. Just sit there. You're just almost there as like almost family friends, and you're just going to have a cup of tea, and then you're going to leave.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, of course I'm going to do that. Wow, I could not control myself. I was all over him. I was picking him up. I was hugging him. I was kissing him. I think we stayed about 2 hours. And it was just incredible. And we had to tear ourselves away from him. And I just remember then we just got back in the car. We said bye to him, got back in the car, drove to the nearest supermarket car park. I think it was a Tesco's. We just parked the car. We were both shaking and I just sobbed. And I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And I think it was just relief.
How long had he been with the foster carers?
Since birth.
Right.
So for him, that was his family.
Yeah.
That was who he loved. So for us, it was just the disconnect between it being such a happy occasion and the sense of loss for him. It felt like we were abducting him. And the loss for his foster carers as well. He'd been part of their family, you know, for 2 years, and just, you know, driving up the M1, all this emotion that I was feeling. There was such a massive disconnect because it was this joyous occasion for us and we finally got what we wanted, but at the same time it was the expense of this child losing everything that he'd known in his entire life. He was losing his whole life and he was on the verge of having this new one, but he hadn't asked for it. And that just broke my heart.
Mm. I guess it's that thing of how do you communicate that to a 2-year-old?
Yeah, you can't. You can't.
Must have been such a bittersweet time.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for him, it was, to see, you know, what he, you know, what I think what any adopted child or any child that's in foster care goes through, the sense of loss and trying to reconcile, you know, the transition in their life is massive. You know, if we're just like as an adult, if you're suddenly taken away from your family, your partner, your parents, your kids, and if you were planted in a new house with strangers and told, forget about.
And I guess that's the thing.
Life.
You can't keep up those ties at all. It's kind
You
of
can absolutely. And we tried really hard to. So we you know had photo albums for him to kind of look at of his foster carers, and we've met them since. And and you know he remembers them, and they're very much part of his history and his life, and they you know, and I hope they always will be.
How long did it did it take for him to settle, I guess?
I think the first time I don't know if it was for him to settle or for me to feel like I was his mum. So I don't know if that is the same thing, but I know the first time that I felt like wow was the first time he went to nursery, and it was about a year after he'd been with us. And we took him to nursery, and he was, you know, we hadn't left him with anyone. And I think we'd only left him for, I think it was like an hour without us at the nursery. So it was a very trial, you know, the initial introductions. And I think he was only going to go, you know, for like 2 sessions a week or something. And the first time we went to collect him, and he saw me. And he just came running up to me and threw his arms around my neck and just clung to me. And I think that was the first time that I felt like, wow, I'm his mum.
Oh,
Yeah.
Must be so difficult because that's what you want.
Yeah.
And did you feel like there was some sort of disconnect up until that moment? Did you feel like, that you weren't quite his mum? Was it just in that moment that everything fell into place?
Yeah, I think so. And I think I was, faking it till I made it for so long. And I was referring to myself as mummy and referring to myself as, his mum. But what you say and what you feel are often two very different things.
Yeah.
In my Edinburgh show that I did, I talked about him rejecting me because he had, this is true for many, many adopted kids that they've lost their birth mum.
Mm-hmm.
They then go into foster care, and in foster care, primarily the main carer, the primary carer is a woman. They then might go into another foster home or another. So they get moved around, and pretty soon they learn from a very young age that actually mummies are not to be trusted. They don't stick around, they leave you.
Mm-hmm.
So to protect themselves from losing yet another mummy, what kids sometimes do is they reject the female carer. And I think because I'd been a mum, I had been the primary carer, I'd kind of always thought, that is not going to be me.
Yeah.
If our adopted child, if our child rejects anyone, it's going to be her. Because she's not a biological parent,
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm, very maternal. I was the broody one. So it was a massive shock to the system when it happened, and it was me. And so I'd been with him, reinforcing myself as mummy, and but he took his time, shall we say, to call me mummy.
And how have your daughters been with your son?
Oh my God, incredible! And at times, because they're like older now, they're like 25 and 21. So now sometimes if he's pissed off with me and my partner, he's almost like okay, I've got another two. He's like, I don't need you to. Bye. He's absolutely. I think he's our world.
Yeah,
he absolutely is. Yeah.
Has it surprised you how you feel as a mum through adoption?
Yeah, it has. And what has really surprised me, is I think I'd done a lot of preparation myself about, that whole thing about if he behaves in a certain way, you might not instinctively know why he is behaving like that or why he said a certain thing. It's not that I know it. When he says something or does something or, something happens, I completely have the same instinctive knowledge about why he's done it, and if I say to him, have you done that because of this? Are you saying that because? And he's like, yeah. How do you know? And
because as a mother, you watch.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that bond, oh my God, the same instinctive bond, the love, everything is there. More so, I'd say, for him than it is for my other two. I won't tell him that. Yeah, he is just. I feel like. I feel like I've waited such a long time for him to come along.
Really?
Oh my God, yeah. And I feel in lots of ways that I've waited my whole life for him. Yeah, he's incredible. Yeah, he's completely the love of my life.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's so gorgeous.
Yeah, he is just, gosh, yeah. Oh, he's lovely.
And it's amazing to think that you chose that pairing.
Yeah, yeah.
If at any other time that you'd have looked into it, if it was a year before, if you didn't take that break.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And what surprises me as well is how much, like the little quirks that he has, what he's picked up, and I don't know, kind of nature, all of that, how unlike my other two he is, and how unlike me and my partner he is. It's like, wow.
So I've got a book coming out.
Okay.
And it's called Letters on Motherhood.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It says on the tin.
Yeah.
It's letters all around motherhood.
Yeah.
If you could write a letter based around motherhood, who would it be to and what would it say?
I think I would write my letter to me, and I would tell myself to go easy on myself. I would tell my younger self so many things. Firstly, I'd tell myself that I was gay. I would tell myself to be kind to myself, to treat myself like my own best friend, to let go of guilt, not focus on the future, not worry about the future, just focus on today. Because whilst I think I worried so much about the future, especially like my middle child, my daughter, the 21-year-old, she has a disability, so she's partially sighted. So I worried so much about the future for her. And now when I look at her, I think, oh my God, Isma, why were you worrying? And I kind of think I felt so much guilt and so much anxiety. And I kind of think, let go of that. You've missed out so much on present living because you were worrying so much about the future and those moments that I missed out on. So now I try and really live in the present with my son and even with my older daughters, just to kind of, put my phone down. So I would tell myself not to kind of, spend so much time on social media. Put the phone down. Be kind to myself. Just because you're a mum, you don't have to lose who you are. You're a mum, but you're you first. Stay true to who you are. Do what you want to do. You still have aspirations. You still have things you want to do. You can still do them. And doing them will make you a better parent. And as long as you're okay with everything you're doing, your kids are going to be okay. And look after you first, and the kids will be fine. And I would tell myself to save money.
Very important, very important. And finally, I ask people to complete these 3 sentences.
Yeah.
Being a mum means
what I was born for. It means what I was born to do.
Since being a mum, I
have hit the menopause.
How are you finding that?
Oh, it's
really?
Oh my God, yeah. I think the biggest thing is the sleep, because the hot flushes throughout the night. And I tried HRT, but it just sent me a bit nuts.
Right.
So I came off it. But yeah, the hot flushes throughout the night. So you wake up in the morning not feeling refreshed. It feels like going back to kind of those when you have a younger child and you're
the mum sweats.
Yeah. So yeah, it feels like going back to that.
Fun times ahead.
Well, yeah.
And I'm happy when.
Oh, I'm happy when I'm with my kids.
That's so lovely.
And with cake.
Marry the 2 together. Happy times.
Perfect.
I've absolutely loved chatting to you. Like I said, I knew a little bit, but actually talking to you in depth is just brilliant. And, I think if you take one little piece of your story away, then you wouldn't be doing this now and with your sons. I just think it's incredible. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.